is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 181. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. He's sitting here Sunday afternoon, international break, Austin, Texas. I got to go see the debut of Coach Pochettino last night at Q2. But how you been this weekend, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. Excited to not have to recap a heartbreaking loss with my favorite team and just talk about some news stuff here and inform the people of the happenings and whatnot's going on with our favorite club here in Austin. So yeah, I'm doing good, man. Fantasy lineups look good. So that's a plus.
we hit record and I saw Chris Olave concussion, so that hurts a couple of my teams. So we'll see how they shake out. It was much more fun, and again, like talking about not having a depressing loss to recap or result to recap. United States men's team, at least, right? Women coming, I think, 2 weeks from now. The 2-0 win last night. It was weird for me, dude. First time I've ever sat anywhere in the stadium outside of our perch there in 123, or obviously like we've been in the South End a couple times for the weather delayed games, but Lexus Club seats last night. Shout out to Guillermo for the tickets. Yeah, we didn't have the Lexus Club didn't have the benefits, right, of just like the unlimited food and drink, which I think that happens during the Austin games. But it smells nice in there, man. I got a nice beer selection in there, some food.
What are you trying to say here?
The mesh seats over there, man. Like my butt was comfy.
Soft.
It was nice. It was nice to see how the other side lives.
You're getting soft. What are you implying here? That I smell?
No. I'm just saying. It was nice over there, and it was weird too to see the South End, right, for some of the international games, at least I think they unlocked the seats, right, so people are sitting in the South End, which is just like it's unusual to see. And I think my favorite moment of the night is I'm leaving the stadium and I get a text in one of our many group chats from somebody else who was there at the stadium and goes, "Was that you booing Coco Carrasquilla when he came out?" Yes, it was. So,
there we go.
I don't know if somebody else heard that. I think I think it was Mason, right? And I think he was sitting on the third deck. So that's awesome. I need to go back to the broadcast and see if you can hear me just booing Coco. The Panamanian fan in front of us too. I had to be like, "Look, man, I just hate Houston. You guys are all right."
Oh, we also hate him. Well, maybe you know how I feel about the man.
Well, let's get into some of this here. Before we talk about the news, we'll recap the press conference that Sporting Director Rodolfo Borrell gave on Monday afternoon, of course, in the wake of Josh Wolff being fired by Austin FC, and a number of other news items to hit on. A couple little activities for us to go through here on our Sunday as we await decision day. Before we get into all of that, just want to remind you all, listening or watching on the YouTube, the best way to support the show is by downloading the audio version of this and every episode of the North End Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can toggle on auto downloads, Apple Music, Spotify, any other third-party podcast app. You do that, you can support the show going forward without having to think about it further. You can go the extra mile, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, helps us grow the channel. Notification bell will let you know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. So, we sit down like 2:30, I think, was the Rodo presser on Monday, not live streamed. So waiting about an hour and a half for that to be uploaded by the club, and plenty of information coming out of that press conference. Kind of the first thing we get right off the bat, Davy Arnaud named the interim head coach, at least for decision day. Looking at some of these other clubs, Phil West, when we had the live stream a week ago today, when that Josh Wolff news came across, he pointed at the fact that Minnesota this season, right? Waiting for Eric Ramsey, had an interim coach to start the year when they were here at Q2. So I guess there's potential for Davey to coach more than one game, but we know who's going to be at the helm next Saturday.
Sensible, most logical kind of move to make here. I don't foresee him being the interim head coach going into next season. And maybe that's just me being hopeful that Rodo's going to wrap all this stuff up in the offseason here and get us on the right track and like obviously establish who's going to be leading this the ship here at the helm and everything like that. So congrats to Davey. I hope it goes well for him. Absolutely. And I think, Phil brought up that he has some interim experience, right?
He was interim at Houston for a while, like a number of games. I think they ditched their coach more in the middle of the season in that particular year. I don't think it went that great for Coach Arnaud in that stint, but again, Houston sucks. So what do you want him to do? So we, of course, we'll keep our eyes on that. I agree with you. I don't think Coach Arnaud will be here on opening day 2025, but we'll see. There is that possibility. And Rodo kind of also went back right away to like old reliable here. You're right. The names you would not believe was something we got almost exactly a year ago. And while like for me, I haven't seen a name come to this club that I couldn't believe. I've seen plenty of names I didn't know before and that I'm happier here, right? Especially the three guys we got in the summer. But so Rodo was talking, obviously extensively about the process that how they went about, meeting with coach Sunday morning, all that, yada, yada, notifying the players. But then looking ahead to the upcoming process. And he said, since yesterday, I have had at least 25 coaches offering themselves to join Austin FC. Names that you wouldn't even believe. So to persuade them to come to Austin is not difficult. Then the expectation is another thing. It's about us to choose what we think is the best for us moving forward. And, spot on there. I do want to know some of the names, you won't believe, but Rodo had an answer for that, right?
Hey, you want to know, eh? You want to know.
Yeah,
I love this man.
He's so fucking great, man. And yes, I would love to hear these names as well. I'd love to hear the players' names, but obviously that won't happen. Just hoping that it comes to fruition here. And I was like jokingly thinking about this, like, obviously it was top of mind after Wolff was let go here. Like, who could he be talking about? And I was like, I wonder if the names are just unbelievable names and not actually like the actual name. You know what I mean? Right. It's just like, you wouldn't believe what this guy's actual name is. And so I was like looking up like crazy soccer coach names and shit. There was a good amount, but I'm going to go with the fact that Rodo, like we said, we're riding with him. We trust his judgment. And, like from that press conference, his demeanor, like how he's kind of joking right there, that just kind of exudes confidence to me, and that like this is not cap. And for our older listeners, it means he's not lying.
Oh man, shout out to Eric Goodman who got that quote out of him. Said, I think I'm not pressing for names, but if you want to tell us, Rodo, very certainly going to create more memes we will not believe as he goes forward here. And of course, like as these Rodo pressers do, he kind of dovetails, allows the assembled media there to guide him into many different subjects. So he did have multiple kind of defenses of Owen Wolff in the sense that, right, and because we talked about that last Sunday, was like, what happens with Owen now? Again, I think you and Landon, kind of the consensus there after I brought up, does it raise the chance that Owen could maybe be on the move? The consensus from the panel was, no, I don't think so. And Rodo kind of said as much. But then, again, he went a little bit further to say, talking about Owen, I think he's one of the best, or one of the players with more potential in the country. And I think very clearly has been completely and unfairly treated. We're not saying anything we didn't know, but again, it's nice to hear Rodo backing his guys up.
Absolutely. Like, with this and the fallout potential with losing Josh, if you lost Owen, that's a bigger loss than losing Josh in this situation, even from just a standpoint, like from the standpoint of having personnel on the field who are actually competent and solid players, which Owen very much is. And if you were ever in the camp that he was only playing because his dad was the coach, I really just don't know what to tell you. This kid is a very good player, and he's arguably our most attractive young asset moving forward. So I very much do not believe we're going to lose him, and I very much do not want to lose Owen. If anything, and I said it on the live stream, I think this probably is a nice bit of weight off of his shoulders, because anytime you're going to have poor games, and we've called Owen out for some poor games that he had, which of course a young player is going to struggle at times throughout the course of the season. But then always the argument is, well, he always, it's because his dad wants to play him. And it's just like, no, dude. So like now that excuse for people is taken off of Owen's plate, I think hopefully that this really, allows him to be able to play a bit more free. And, he's 20 years old now. I
think he is about to turn 20. I'm not sure. 19, 20.
Yeah. So he's active on the socials. He's in that space, and everything. And you're seeing people talk shit about your dad, rightfully so, or, justifiably, or what have you. It's probably not a good thing. So I'm happy for Owen in that regard. Like Landon said, when we had the live stream there with the panel and everything, it's much less likely to lose him given how old he is now. He's established here and everything like that. Whereas with Gavin, there's some potential if Josh goes somewhere that he goes with him.
Right. Just how Owen arrived here, right? Because I think he was in the Atlanta Academy. Tyler was with the first team. Owen left. Tyler, of course, still scored a goal last weekend for Atlanta. Of course, also asked in the presser, Rodo was asked about Sebastian Driussi's status with the team, given his, activities over the last couple months. And this was, at least to me, a little bit of a relief. He says, all of these speculations and rumors and these kind of things, there is nothing. As far as I know, there is nothing. Actually, I have to say that the last two performances have been great from him, and we expect from him nothing but this. And I did notice this, and this is probably just a small thing that, again, I try to take in as much Austin FC content as I can, tend to overthink things a lot. But Seba did comment on the team's Instagram post congratulating him on 50 goals. And he said something to the effect of let's get some more, green heart, black heart. What stood out to me there? Responding in English. And which is not something he does a ton. To my knowledge, again, I don't see all of his Instagram comments, but to comment there in a positive manner, the first positive, don't have to think about what kind of thinly veiled messages he's sending with this song that he attached to his Instagram story today. Just let's get more, talking to the fan base, the club, all of that. If you can get, again, you talk about weight off people's shoulders. If Josh Wolff getting out of here is a big weight off Driussi's shoulders, even better.
Yep, we'll absolutely take that. And I'm not going to exclude Seba from potentially fueling these rumors and driving some of this speculation with some of his behavior. But again, he responded on the field in these last two games with two really solid performances. He is our best player. He is our most important player. This has been an incredibly frustrating season for him. And I understand that. I understand why things have popped up and then the negativity starts to swirl and stuff like that. So happy to see Rodo having his back as well. And, him being positive in the comments with the Instagram there and everything like that, because there's no way I wouldn't want him back unless you got some sort of insane offer for him where it's you're going to get a great return on it. But at this stage in his career, he's 29. He's potentially moving into, the latter part of his career in terms of his prime and everything like that. But God, we cannot lose Seba, despite some of the poor performances and the poor behavior. But like I said, it's been an incredibly frustrating season for him because he was just devoid of quality help for the majority of the year. He wants to win games. So definitely open arms welcoming him back.
Starting the season injured didn't help either. So again, there's a lot of factors going into it, but hopefully onward and upward from here. Kind of similar thoughts, of course, on our boy Danny Pereira. Rodo did touch on that, right? He's got a team option said under team control. I don't think he came out just flat out said that they're going to pick up the option, but expects him to be here. And again, this is the second option on his initial GA contract from when he was signed year one. I expect an extension this offseason. And whether they, move him on and sell him overseas or what have you or not, I expect that extension to be part of how Rodo fills some of the cap space that's opening up here in a month.
Yeah, I mean, and Danny's on one of the nicer contracts that we have on the books here, and like being able to extend him and have him under control where you can either have him contributing to the team or moving on from him at some point in time, as soccer business tends to happen, is a great move to me, and Danny, again, somebody who, we speculated with frustration and wasn't doing things particularly well after we saw the altercation with Johnny there after the Portland game, I believe, or I don't know. One of the more recent RSL game.
Yeah.
So you could probably get him on a pretty decent contract extension moving forward here. He just got his single goal, but he had a great season overall. Obviously not finished out yet, but again, open arms, get Danny back here.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that an extension would come in under the TAM level, right? So less than the max salary cap hit, which next season goes up to $683K this year. I think it's closer to $750 next year, if I recall correctly. But
yes,
maybe $500,000 a year, something like that. If that can be a nice kind of meeting in the middle, because again, right, like Danny's been here through a Julio extension, a Zardes contract, a Diego Fagundes extension, right? So he's probably looking at $500K and come on, man, a little bit more, but we'll see. Yeah. Just nice to hear again that we've got the option. As Rodo has said in the past, do you think we're that stupid as to decline a Danny Pereira option for that cheap? So we'll keep our eyes on Danny. And speaking of those roster decisions, right? Of course, Borrell asked about the roster decisions that will come up on all of the players with expiring contracts or options, team options, of course. We don't know about any potential auto triggers in there. But he said that those roster decisions, which I saw floating around, that the decisions last year came down soon after decision day. It was actually a little less than a month. Those decisions were announced Friday, November 17th. Decision day last year was October 21st. So Rodo said that the roster decisions will not, he's not going to wait for a new coach to make those decisions, but he hopes that the timing allows the new coach to give some input. So again, I think he's trying to not play any cards that he doesn't have to publicly here. But reading between the lines, I think we can maybe expect a new coach in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
I mean, that's, like I said at the top of the episode here, that's where I'm at with this. I think he's going to want to get his guy in here and start moving in the new direction.
Yeah, because the league did put out the off-season calendar here. So unless you have anything else to add on the Rodo presser, we can keep it pushing here. November 27th is the club deadline to exercise options and submit bona fide offers. So there's your deadline for when these decisions can come, would be 10 days later than when they were announced last year, calendar-wise. And there's your deadline for a coach to have input on those decisions as well. Some of the other notable dates here for Austin. Monday, December 9th, there will be a half-day trade window. I had not heard of this in past off seasons, but yes, clubs may begin adjusting their rosters following the 3-month roster freeze by conducting trades with other MLS teams during a half-day trade window. That is 8 a.m. Central to noon on Monday, December 9th. So if there's any trades in the works, they'll be announced Monday morning, December 9th. College Showcase, right? So kind of the MLS Combine for the draft there, December 11th through December 14th. But on December 11th, San Diego FC, MLS Expansion Draft. Of course, getting our 30th team into the league. We'll have a 15th team in the Western Conference next year. Let's talk a little bit about the expansion draft, because the last time we had an expansion draft, we were just getting off the ground here in the North End. It's been 2 years, so let's revisit this process, San Diego can select up to 5 players in the expansion draft from the list of players that are unprotected by the other 29 MLS teams. So the rules on who you can, who you have to, who you can't protect are as follows. Each team can protect up to 12 players from the senior and supplemental roster combined. So all the players you have on first team deals, you can protect up to 12. Players on expiring contracts or option years will still count as part of a team's roster. But the club is not obligated to pick up options of players that they protect. So like an Alex Ring, right? If you protect Alex Ring, that doesn't mean you have to pick up his option. This is what I think my one piece of confusion comes in with the rules relative to how our roster is structured. Generation Adidas players, right? Our only GA player is CJ Fodre. GA players in slots 21 through 24 on the supplemental roster are auto protected, but CJ is in slots 25 through 28. So I'm treating that as he's not auto protected here, which is a little bit of a bummer because I think when we get into spots 11 and 12 of who we're protecting, he's in the conversation. Mm-hmm. Homegrowns who are 25 years or younger are auto protected. So Owen Wolff, Damian Lass, Micah Burton, auto protected for Austin FC. Your designated players, your U22s are not auto protected. So you do have to use some of those 12 spots on those specialty roster players. And clubs with 4 or more international players, of course, Austin has 7 currently, must protect at least 3 of them. And this excludes international players who are auto-protected by other rules. So for Austin, right, the 3 guys we just got in the window, Bukhari, Dessler, Svatak, all internationals, boom, don't have to worry about that with Austin. If a player has a no-trade clause, the club must protect him, and he counts as one of the 12 players protected. And of course, if a player is selected from Austin FC or any other team in MLS, the rest of that team's roster becomes protected throughout the rest of the draft. Only one player can be taken per team. And of course, last time around, St. Louis did not select an Austin player, but the year before that, Mackenzie Gaines, first in the expansion draft to Charlotte. So let's run through who we think the club will or maybe should protect here. Yep. Anything for you off the top, right? I mentioned those 3 guys that we brought in the summer window. Obviously, Sebastian Driussi, fits the mold there. We can pull up for the YouTube viewers. Here's how the roster looks at the moment. So we've got those 4 guys protected on our list here. I will offer up 3 more to you. Mm-hmm. Danny, Biru, and Stuver would put us at 7.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say Biru almost immediately.
Yeah, well, that might have been the first guy that you would have protected if I gave you the steering wheel here. Anybody else that stands out to you?
I'm sorry, did you say Danny? I was just too excited to say Biru's name.
I did, yeah. So okay. We've got Seba, we've got the 3 summer editions, we've got Biru, Danny, and Stuver. That puts us at 7.
Yep, BHI pops out for me right there. Yeah. Julio as well. Tell you one guy who I definitely don't want to be protected is Leo Väisänen. So I hope that he is out there. And then it gets a little interesting, you start to look at some of these names here. You see Alex pop up. We brought up CJ there, and that we're going under the impression that he is not going to be auto protected, despite the fact that he's a GA player. And I think that's really where it starts to boil down to some tougher decisions here. Johnny G has to be thrown into that protected mix as well.
That's the name I was going to say.
Yep. And then, it starts to get a little dicey with who else you're going to throw into that protected list. I don't think Joji is going to make that list. Hedges, obviously not. Rubio, there's potential there. I think before we jumped on the show, I thought that you made a really good point about, looking forward to the future and how you're going to start to shape this roster and that you're going to get another buyout next year. The biggest buyout candidate that stands out, if you're looking at the salary cap on the northendpodcast.com is G. And as much as we love G, he's on $1 million contract, and that is just not really good business. So if you were to have G looking forward as your potential buyout candidate, then you probably want to protect Diego because you're going to be incredibly thin at striker, which this team has been since its inception.
Yeah, so if we add We got Julio, Heinzike, Johnny G brings us to 10, right? I think the one name we didn't bring up Obrian, right? I think he has to be on there too, because like I could sit here and debate you about Hodder's salary and do we want to try to renegotiate that going forward, but he's our leading scorer from this last year. I feel like he just has to be protected.
Yeah, and you talk about guys who like really stepped up this season. Hot Air's at on the top of the list. Maybe not the top of the list, but on a short list of players who really stood out this year, as well as from like those last couple of games where you just saw like a really, really kind of like frenetic effort that he was putting forward to like try to help this team overcome the insurmountable odds that were going to eventually potentially push us into the playoffs there. So yes, I would say Hot Air. That puts us at 11. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, right, you brought up Rubio, CJ, Alex Ring as kind of the three for that last spot. And I think there's arguments for all three, right? You talked about Rubio and like what I brought up earlier about if you can operate as like we have no auto triggers kicking in for these guys who are expiring or on options, and say you get rid of all the guys, right, that you want to get rid of, to me, Zardes stands out as the guy that would be who you use your buyout on.
Yeah. Nobody's picking him up.
Right, right.
You don't got to protect G. He's not going to get snagged.
Right. Which to me, again, like maybe you dump him and Diego if Diego's knee is just not holding up at this point of his career, which is certainly, we saw the troubles he had really throughout the summer. Getting on the field, staying healthy, got his knee drained, I think, in May. But he's a lot cheaper, less than half the cost of Gyasi Zardes. So I think that's the argument for me there. Then Alex Ring is like, if we have some sort of agreement where he's going to come back on a lesser number, right? Maybe a 1+1 after we decline the $1.6 million option that he's got, which is just untenable in my eyes. And then there's CJ.
Yep.
Because, like, certainly if Alex has made it clear, right? And I would imagine before this expansion draft process, right? This is December. So we will have our roster decisions. So if Alex isn't coming back, obviously you don't care to protect him. And if you think about a guy, you think about what comes along with San Diego and CJ Fodre. Hometown boy. I believe his Generation Adidas contract would transfer over, so he would not cost them anything when it comes to their salary cap. And we know they've got Chucky Lozano, the rumor that Sergio Ramos might end up there by next season. Like, you would think that San Diego, again, they kind of are profiling as this team that, again, is not afraid to spend, especially when it comes to their, their DPs, their U22s. So adding CJ, 20 years old, on a free, not counting against the cap. And again, also then talking about Austin, Diego and Alex are on their way out age-wise, whether they stick around next year or not. CJ, again, like, he's not quite making the 22 under U22 list, but he's 20 years old. He is a GA player. Like, we know the quality he does have. We know that he's improved in his 2 seasons that he's been here, watching him out there with FCito. So this is a tough decision for spot 12 to me.
This is definitely a difficult decision. And like you said, there's absolutely legitimate arguments to be made for both of these guys. And I think we'll just focus on Alex and CJ here like you were. I mean, from a standpoint of like getting production for the first team next season, Alex is the clear choice there.
Yeah.
If you look at it from San Diego's perspective, I think obviously CJ is way more attractive than Alex. If they're willing to spend, you're not going to spend $1.6 million on Alex Ring to go get him in San Diego. So I could totally see them wanting CJ and us potentially blocking them from getting CJ by using the protection there. CJ obviously profiles as the potential candidate to be a potential, long-term play that makes a lot more sense than Alex does, because Alex about to turn 34, you said, before we jumped on the show here.
Yeah, he'll be 34 next year.
And I think that there's a lot of moving parts there with Alex, because you don't want to extend him at 1.6 million and then have to use the TAM to drop him down and all of that stuff. So like, And then at the same time, on the other hand, it's like, Alex has been here for a long time. He's been an integral part of this team. He's been the captain. Regardless if he had the captain band or not, he's always been one of the leaders of this club. We know what he brings to the team on the defensive side of the ball. Seeing some of his growth and progress, even at the later stages of his career on the offensive side, where he was, I don't know if he's still first in assists or, he's up there at the top, but he was able to deliver some balls for a team that was really struggling to score throughout the course of the season. So, I mean, if I was forced to make a decision, I think you protect CJ and you try to get this renegotiated deal done with Alex, where it's like, hey, buddy, like, we want you back. We know how important you are to the team and what you bring to the locker room, particularly. But we got to get you on a different deal because it just doesn't make sense. And again, just like with Josh, Alex is not Rodo's boy. Like that again, sure. Rodo does not owe him any favors. This is not the old Austin FC, as you have coined it, Austin FC 2.0 moving forward here. And I just don't know if Alex is a part of that. And I know that probably hurts a lot of fans because of the impact that Alex has had here. But if you're looking at this from a business standpoint, you protect CJ, and I think you roll the dice with San Diego not selecting Alex Ring in that situation, given all of the other factors that I laid out here in regard to his salary, his age, what you're actually going to be able to get out of him. But, we've been saying it for a while now with Alex, we'd love to have him as a rotational piece that you can bring into the midfield when you need some subs to come in, or you have a heavy game week, what you're going to, you know what you're going to get out of him. And if you can get him on a deal that makes that advantageous, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Again, with the option deadline on November 27th, we'll know, we'll have a much clearer picture, I think. Certainly we'll know what the decisions are on Ring and Rubio. So fun little exercise there. We can keep it pushing. Let's talk a little bit more about Owen Wolff. He was named to the MLS 22 under 22 once again. This just ranks top 22 players in MLS under the age of 22. Voted on by an expert panel of select MLS staff. So I wonder if that's the same experts that picked us to be the worst team in the league at the beginning of the year. They weren't that far off, but still wrong.
You were wrong.
So checking out this list, Inter Miami midfielder Diego Gomez leads the list. Average age here, 19.54. 16 of the 22 players on this list are MLS homegrowns. The other 6 are U22 initiative players. Most represented club, Inter Miami, with 5 players on this list. So to have 5 players on this list, in addition to the Barcelona names that they have, right? Those 4 guys, again, that is the deepest roster that this league has ever seen, and I don't think it's particularly close.
No, I mean, that's actually just kind of terrifying, because then, you have this U22 list here, then you have the plus 34 list where you have the best players in the world, actually. So it's like, good Lord. I love seeing Sullivan on there. That's great, man.
Yeah, so you had Kevin Sullivan, one spot below Owen Wolff. Of course, Sullivan, 15 years old there with Philly / Man City, right? But Owen sitting at 17. Only 3 of the 16 players ranked above him are 19 or younger. There are 3 other 19-year-olds, Kramaski for Inter Miami, Vargas for the Sounders, and I don't know Esmer's last name. I've heard it pronounced for sure watching Revs games. But we'll try that one another day. But congrats to Owen, 17th on this list. I think that's moved up a spot or 2 from where he was last year. But I expect to see him on this list 2 more years. Yeah,
exactly. And then this just, again, solidifies the thing that Rodo has been saying about Owen, and the fact that he is a very good player in this league. And it's good for other people outside of our organization to be able to recognize that and give Owen a bit of his flowers here. So big congrats to Owen.
Absolutely. Austin FC also announced their nominees for the MLS year-end awards. Again, this is something every club has the opportunity and is encouraged to nominate. I think you can nominate multiple players from your team for, MVP, Defender of the Year, Goalkeeper of the Year, Young Player, Newcomer, Coach of the Year, Impact Award, things like that. So Austin nominated Brad Stuver for Goalkeeper of the Year, Owen Wolff for Young Player of the Year, Guilherme Biru for Newcomer of the Year, Brendan Heinzike for Defender of the Year, and Hector Jimenez for the Progress Impact Award. To me, the only guy here that has maybe Hector has a chance, right, with the Impact Award. I'm not sure about that field.
Yeah.
But Brad Stuver probably the best chance, but won't get it because the team isn't good enough. But again, Brad leads the league in total saves and goals saved above average, which of course measures the number of goals a goalkeeper saved or conceded relative to expectation. So congrats to those guys, right? I think very deserving. But you go and look at, right, the league's release of all the nominees from every team. We're, hard to be 10th or 11th in the West and win any sort of awards.
Come on, Hector. Get us one, brother.
A couple international results. We are on international break here. Venezuela, we talked about taking on the defending World Cup champion Argentinians, who had Lionel Messi back. Venezuela gets the 1-1 draw here in the World Cup qualifier. So a great result for the Venezuelans. Congrats to them. But for our purposes, Danny Pereira left off the team sheet, not only not starting, did not suit up. So I'm not sure what's up with that. I was disappointed as an Austin fan, looking forward to seeing Danny play any sort of time against this Argentinian side. But Venezuela picks up the important point, back in action, taking on Paraguay Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Central.
Well, hope to see him there versus Paraguay then.
Yeah. 1-1 draw for Costa Rica against Suriname. Costa Rica picked up a red card in the early second half. It was 1-1 at that point, and that was the final score. Julio Cascante, unused substitute in this match. Costa Rica taking on Guatemala, I believe, Tuesday night, and Guatemala currently at the top of that Nations League group. Alexander Svatok subbed in the 90th minute of Ukraine's 1-0 win over Georgia. Svatok did grab an interception in his 1 minute on the pitch, so Ukraine gets 3 points. We'll take on Czechia Monday, 1:45 p.m. Central. And then finally, little last business day international crossover, our boy, Bobasi Brahwanga, plays the entire second half, comes on as a halftime substitute in Uganda's 1-0 win over South Sudan AFCON qualifiers. Bobo, 2 shots, completed 8 of his 12 passes. 3 of those passes were in the final third. And on defense, 1 clearance, 2 interceptions, and 3 recoveries. That win means that Uganda keeps pace with South Africa at the top of Group K. Uganda and South Sudan just going to run it back Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central. So good luck to Bobo.
Oh, God, I love Bobo.
Come on down to Farmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's last business day.
Whoa.
Nothing like a Bobo into the last business day transition here, E. Let's talk about, we know Fcito out of the playoffs after last Sunday's, disappointing loss. Wouldn't have got the results elsewhere either. So let's take a look here. Again, you can find this in our roster and salary cap spreadsheets at thenorthendpodcast.com. Let's look at these Austin FC2 contracts and who is expiring or on an option this offseason. So kind of rapid fire here. The names that are expiring or have an option upcoming: Sebastian Pinot, Diego Abarca, Brian Arellano, Steve Louis-Jean, Bobasi Biarhuanga, that is a loan option. Alonso, that is unknown. We still don't know what his loan contract looks like or loan deal from Atlas looks like. Anthony Deanda, Shaikh Touré, Sal Mazzaferro, and Aaron Cervantes. So we can go back in that order. Sebastian Pinot is has an option for 2025. I believe he has been injured over the last few months, and that's why we have not seen him. What do you do? Pick up or decline that 2025 option?
I mean, it's fitting that he's right there at the top for me, because I think that is the most pressing question from all of these guys, despite you seeing names like Alonso and Bobo and stuff like that. I think I would pick that up. We've seen what he can do. Like you just mentioned there, he did not have a fully healthy season. Obviously, I think got a little bit of disciplinary stuff, a benching earlier in the season, if I recall correctly, after a red card that he got.
Believe so, yeah.
So it was a tough season for him, and there's plenty of times where we were questioning like where he was and like what was going on. But you don't get that type of injury news with the FCTO boys here. But yes, I would pick that up.
I'm with you. Just 21 years old. As of mid-August when we last updated the ages here on the FCTO boys. So still young. I would also pick that up. Give Sebas another year. Diego Abarca, right? We've got, I think, 4 years of options here coming up on Abarca. 19 years old. For me, this easy. Pick it up. I thought he was good to maybe even better than good in the limited time we saw him after the summer window.
I agree, especially as we started to see Micah kind of get pushed up the field a little bit more. You saw Micah at the 9 slot here every now and then. So with Abarca, I would also pick that up.
Brian Ariano, of course, coming out of the Austin FC Academy, 19 years old now, got 2 more options on his FCTO contract. To me, the only way you decline this is if he's getting a first-team deal and then being loaned back down to Austin FC2. I think they're just going to pick up this option here in Next Pro, though.
I think you pick up this option, particularly because you have that secondary option coming in 26, and you see how this year goes with him, and then you can make a more concrete decision going forward with Ariano.
Yeah. Steve Louis-Jean, 19 years old, 2025 option. What say you on our boy Steve?
I think for the sake of the exercise, I think that might be a decline. Okay. You see the names there in that midfield, like what we're working with. And obviously we saw the activity that this team's had throughout the course of the season, bringing in new names, getting guys in here and everything like that. So I do think Steve has the potential to be on the chopping block here. We saw kind of his ascension from completely unknown into, this spot here on the team. So just for the sake of the exercise, I think I would lean towards declining that, but I would not be surprised nor disappointed if he was extended.
Yeah. I think they pick up the 25 option, give him another year, just 19, at least back in August. And I think for me, allowing him to continue to develop, like you mentioned, like kind of plucked out of obscurity and put onto this team in the inaugural year last season. And just the fact that we know he can play some fullback too and fill in kind of all around the midfield. To me, I would lean that they pick it up, but kind of to like you said, I'm not surprised either way. Yeah. And I'm a fan of Steve. Like I do like watching him play. So I think my fandom hopes that option is exercised. Now our 2 loan guys, right? Bobo on loan. We have an option to extend that loan next year. To me, this is a snap. Yes. I know he would still, he's going to be one of the older guys on the roster next year, but I'm not against 22, 23-year-old Bobo on this team. Again, like he's somebody that I wouldn't be surprised to see him fit into an Alonso type of role in a pinch for the first team, right? Getting that call up if things go sideways down the road. Hopefully we're never having to use those call-ups and they just, expand the senior rosters. But for me, wherever he ends up in the Austin organization, I would like to extend that loan to next season. I think he's extremely versatile in the midfield.
I am right there with you. I've mentioned all the time how much I love Bobo and everything like that. Obviously want to see it would be cool to see what that type of contract looks like with the loan and everything like that. But also for Bobo, he's getting that international experience. So it's like a lot of these guys aren't getting time. He is getting significant time there. And like, obviously it's not the same level as some of these guys playing in, the South Americans and everything like that. But like, I'd love to have Bobo back. So snap yes as well.
And Alonso, again, we don't know what the terms of this loan are. Would love to have him stick around, right? That's our captain at this point. But I'm not surprised if he wants to go elsewhere and again try to make that jump to a first team, whether it's at Atlas, whether it's somewhere else, what have you. But that's one to watch. I think I worry that is going to be the unknown part of it, is that he's just not here anymore.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And he does not have a green card, right?
No.
So he has that international designation.
Well, no, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know for sure. Just because he's on loan.
Yeah, I thought we had a conversation about him earlier at some point where it was like, we could see him being able to get bumped up because he's talented and like
Yeah.
I thought he played really well in the Minnesota game where he got some time there, but having that international designation just
Yes.
hurts your ability to get time on the first team.
If he gets a green card, I would love to have him on a supplemental
Yes.
slot for the first team.
But I would also not be surprised if he wants out.
Sure. Yeah. I agree. Anthony De Anda, another one of those guys coming through the Austin FC Academy, got 2 more option years. To me, this is the same as Brian Ariano. If it's time for that first team deal, then I'm down with what Rodo's cooking there. But I think the likelihood to me is that this option is picked up and we see him continue to grow with the second team.
Agreed.
Shaik Toure, no option, just an expiring deal, 23 years old back in August. This is a decline for me. Or not a decline, but I think he's just gone. One of the things that Rodo talked about, he was asked about, you talk about Rodo touching on almost everything during these press conferences. He was asked about the second team, and, we've seen him do this, but him just kind of putting his own voice behind it, trying to get the average age of this team down over the last year. And so, again, Shaik going into his age 24 season, I think he's probably gone.
Yep, I agree. I think you let him walk. And like you mentioned with Steve there, you can slide him back to fullback positions, and that gives you that type of versatility to make up for that loss.
Sal Mazzaferro has an option for 2025. We have seen this team bring in and sign guys like Antonio Gomez, Nico Van Ryn, Ruben Bonachera on this back line to deals through 2025. All 3 of those guys with 2 options, as you see there on our sheets at the northendpodcast.com. Sal, going into his age 23 season, is the Sal Mazzaferro era going to end at Austin FC too?
I mean, like to your point that you just made there, if his goal is to try to get the age of this team down, I think you could see Sal leave. If you're trying to make this team competent and relevant and good at the next pro level, then you pick Sal back up because he was with Alonso the most consistent performer we had throughout the course of this season.
Yeah, to me, this is an option that you pick up, but I also would not want us to stand in the way of Sal if he feels like it's time for him to go get a first team deal, maybe a la Valentin Noel. Maybe you can sell him on to a USL side.
Yeah.
Or, if there's no market for him for us to sell him, then decline the option if that is what he wishes, for him to go seek out his own deal. I would not be surprised to see him want to try to take that step up to USL. But obviously, having Sal on that back line makes us a better team.
Yep.
And then Aaron Cervantes, just the 1-year deal. He's 2 years older than Marcus Alstrup, and Alstrup is signed through next season with an option for 2026. The way the season finished out, man, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cervantes get a deal here. I also wouldn't be surprised to see him seek out, a job elsewhere, where maybe he doesn't have to compete, can just sign up for that starting gig somewhere else. That'll be interesting to watch for me, because I think taking a look at the full season, I don't think a ton separated him from Alstrup.
Nope.
But I certainly have the recency bias of Aaron Cervantes being, goalkeeper number 1 for this team. So I think that, again, there's no option to talk about here. I think he could get another deal with FC Ito.
I think he could, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay.
Talk about trying to drop the age of this team. There's plenty of goalkeepers out there that you can get and try to develop and everything like that. So I would say that he walks.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. So just wanted to take a look at that again, because our last business day previews and recaps are in the past, but those guys are in the off season now. So felt like we should take a look. And we'll close out today's episode, with a little Academy update from the weekend. Taking on HTX ECNL out of Houston. So Houston related, they stink. U15s win 8-0. U14s win 5-2. Santi, Bryce, Marcelo, Luca, and Marshall all scored. HTX scores in the first 2 minutes, and then our U14s go 5 unanswered. U13's game got canceled this week. So there's our Academy update for episode 181.
Very good. We're gonna have to get an AI generated Academy song going in here soon.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put the devs on that ASAP. So anything else for you, E, before we shut it down?
No, sir.
All right. We appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 181 of the North End Podcast. Decision Day coming up. We'll be back on Wednesday to preview the match against Colorado Rapids and talk about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the beginning of your week, everybody. We'll do the same. We'll see you back here on Wednesday for another episode of the North End Podcast. Till then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.